Well, they can put the nail in the coffin tonight. All right, let's talk about players we love. Jamie, who is the start of the week for Week 15?
Isaiah Pacheco. Obviously playing the matchup here against the Texans. They are the worst team in terms of most fantasy points allowed to opposing running backs. They have given up the most touchdowns to running backs, 18 total. I like obviously what Pacheco has been doing. He's clearly the running downs guy for the Chiefs, and the fact that he's got 5 catches over the last 2 weeks is fun too. So 90 total yards or a touchdown in 3 straight games. I think he four straight games. I think he keeps it going. Has a chance to be, I think, a top 10 running back this week if he can have one of those 100-yard touchdown type of games with still 2 or 3 catches. So love the setup for him.
Yeah, 6 catches in his last 3 games, which is nice for Pacheco. 3 last week, and not exactly running more routes, but he's getting more targets. I hope that can stick. Do you like Pacheco or Dobbins in another good matchup?
I like Pacheco better, but I like both. They're very close. I think Pacheco gets a nod in PPR because of what you just said, the fact that he's getting more involved in the passing game. But it would not surprise me if they have a similar stat line, very similar, I think, to what Dobbins gave you last week. Could see 120 total yards for Pacheco, maybe about 120 yards and a touchdown. So very good setup for him. I just think the concern for me is I think Dobbins will still share a little bit more, even though McKinnon's going to have his role. But, Gus Edwards could also have 10 to 15 carries in this game, too.
Heath, who do you love this week?
Terry McLaurin, Giant Slayer. He has averaged 7 catches for 97 yards in 6 career games against this defense. Washington coming off a bye, the Giants coming off a spanking. I think this game will be lopsided. McLaurin makes at least 1 big play deep, maybe 2.
I read that this is the second time in the last 30 years that a team gets to play an opponent twice in a row. It's such BS. But that's what the Commanders get. They get the Giants for the 2nd straight game with a bye week in between. Just
whose 3-game stretch is more brutal? The Giants having to go Commanders, Eagles, Commanders, or the Dolphins having to go 3 straight road games? San Francisco, Chargers, Buffalo.
Oh,
the
definitely.
Dolphins by a mile.
Yeah. Commanders aren't that good. Yeah, definitely the Dolphins.
Is it?
I think so. Yeah, I mean the Commanders
that's tough to go division opponent 3 straight weeks, and 2 of them or 2 of those games being the same team.
That is a disadvantage for sure. Players to avoid. Jamie, who's a sit this week?
I would like to sit. Speaking of the Dolphins, Tua. The weather is not going to be conducive, I think, for him. If the snow is expected in Buffalo, I think it could be up to 7 inches last time I saw. He's not playing well, clearly, at the moment, and the Bills' defense is, I'm sure, they're playing well. B, I'm sure the whole entire Bills team is a little salty after losing to Miami in Week 3, and so I think Tua is going to have a little bit of a rough day.
Would you start Mike White over him?
I would start Mike White over him, yes.
Would you start Jared Goff over him?
I would not. Jared Goff, in his road games this season, do you know what he is averaging in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that, but I know he's had 2 games with like less than 5 points. I think he's had 3 games maybe with less than 7 points. So I don't know what he's averaging, but I know it's bad.
He is averaging in 5 road games this season 8.6 fantasy points per game.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
That's bad, but there's a lot behind that, though.
And the Jets are really good.
They are really good, and the weather's going to be bad there. I mean, it's not going to be like Buffalo bad, but it's going to be cold. It's going to be uncomfortable. I'm not going to want to go to that Jets-Lions game. So you're sitting Tua, but you're also sitting Goff.
Yes.
Heath, who are you sitting?
I would like to stay away from Mike Evans. Just not been the same guy for the last month plus. No more than 5 catches in a game. Hasn't reached 60 yards since Week 8. Obviously, we know the touchdown woes. Hasn't got into the end zone since Week 4, and Tom Brady's not the same guy. Evans doesn't look like the same guy. I'd be pretty worried about Evans in this spot. He's a low-end, touchdown-dependent number 3 wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, and I'm totally with you, but do you think we feel differently about Evans if that Donovan Smith holding call is not called and he gets the long touchdown?
He'd probably be in the Gabe Davis range for me if that had happened. Yeah, I'd have him up at the high-end number 3 wide receiver, but still boom bust.
Yeah.
Well, how about 2 weeks ago? Also, Evans he drew something about like a 40-yard penalty right near the goal line on pass interference. It looked like he had the guy beat. So that's the problem with players who are so reliant on the deep ball. He's not getting the end zone targets anymore. You could make a case for him, but they just have to connect. They haven't been
Also
connected.
a good secondary. Even without Uzi, they're still playing really well.
They're
5th in
playing
the league in
great.
terms of fewest fantasy points allowed to the
Yep.
position.
So Pacheco is a start. McLaurin is a start. Those are the players we love. Tua is a sit for Jamie. Heath, did you agree on that? Start a sit Tua if you can.
I would not sit him for Mike White, so I don't think I can call him a sit. He's a low-end number 1 quarterback. I think I've got him 9th or 10th. Definitely lower than where he's been over the last month. But
I'm surprised you don't think White has a higher ceiling.
I have a hard time when Tua's got Waddle and Tyreek saying anybody has a higher ceiling, and I think the weather might be a little bit overblown.
Yeah, and what was I going to say on that regard? I don't remember. Oh, I think it's his first time playing in snow. We talked about yesterday that he's been in cold before, but snow, I don't know, whatever. I don't think he's
I don't know, like, if I've seen differing reports. The last thing I saw was 1 to 3 inches. If it was like it's going to be snowing blizzard-like conditions during the game, that's a different thing than if the day, for that entire day, the forecast calls for 1 to 3 inches of snow. It might not even snow during the game.